Y'all like the glasses? Talk to me. Tell me I don't look like the black Superman. What I call it is the black Clark Kent. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, I'm just playing with y'all. I just be doing stuff. I don't know what I be doing. I don't know why I be doing it. I just be happy to be alive, dog. Anyway, what's going on with y'all, man? We back today, and we will be talking about my predictions for teams that will be in what I'm calling the Cooper Flagg Sweepstakes next year. In other words, we will be talking about which teams I think will absolutely suck, will absolutely be terrible, will be bottom feeders in the NBA for this upcoming season, and will be tanking for a top 3 pick in the 2025 draft class that seems like it could be pretty loaded. So, hey, not terrible. Like, at least it's not like this year's draft class where it's like, well, the top pick doesn't seem like it's going to be a great player anyway, so why tank this year? You know what I'm saying? To me, there are a few teams that are very obviously going to be so bad that they will just simply define a successful season next year as coming away with the first pick or coming away with the top 3 pick. And I'm going to pick 2 teams in each conference for this video, but then in the next video that you see, or with either, if not the next video, it'll be the video you see on Tuesday. So if not the video on Monday, it'll be the video on Tuesday where I'm going to talk about other teams that I think are going to be near these sweepstakes, or kind of like a gray area where they're missing the play-in, but then they're not bad enough to be a top 5, top 4 pick, you know what I'm saying, something like that. But the 2 teams in each conference that I expect to be at the very, very bottom of their respective conferences, starting with the West first, Utah and Portland, and then in the East, Brooklyn, and very, very sadly, my Toronto Raptors. Now, the good thing, if you're a fan of any of these 4 teams, if like I am myself, is that this is projected to be a very good. Can I speak English? Like, am I cool? The good thing, if you are a fan of any of these 4 teams, like I am myself, is that this is projected to be a very good draft class. So it's a good year to be bad, which, you know, we love that, especially if you're a team where you've been asking your team to rebuild, and they've waited a little longer than you would have liked to rebuild, and they didn't get a lot of picks for the players that they traded away that are really, really good and really, really contributing on other teams. It's a really good year for them to be bad, especially when they didn't have their own pick this year. Talking about Toronto, in case you're wondering, okay? Let's just say I'm really holding on to that 2019 championship. Let's just say that. So let's start with Utah. They just gave a ginormous bag to Lauri Markkanen. Hey, congrats to you. But to me, they did it just one day late, and I don't know if Danny Ainge did this on purpose or not. Again, I'm sure he did, because Danny Ainge is one of the best GMs in the league. But had they done it the day before, or I think it was like the day before or the day after, I want to say if they had done it the day before, they would have been able to trade him at next year's deadline at the earliest. But instead, if they want to trade him, they now have to wait until next offseason because they signed him to this extension just one day late. It might be one day late, it might be one day early. I'm pretty sure it was one day late, though, which is just really weird to me. Like, that seems like one of those things where it's too calculated to be a coincidence, especially when Lauri Markkanen was in so many trade talks and everything like that. But hey, what do I know? You know what I'm saying? Danny Ainge is very good at his job, so I'm sure he has a plan and everything like that. But the bad thing about this is that the scoring of Lauri Markkanen combined with the scoring of guys like Sexton, Clarkson, and then you combine that with Keontae George's predicted progression. He's a guy that I'm a fan of. He's a guy that I think will be even better next year. So when you combine all of those things, that just might be enough to push Utah out of a top 3 pick. Now, the reason that I still have them low, like bottom 2 in the conference, is because the West is just so loaded. But if we're just looking at roster, Utah isn't terrible. It's just that everybody else in the West is just simply better. So, like, they could very well end up finishing last in the West, but still having multiple guys that are 15-plus point per game scorers that you look at as very serviceable, very good NBA players. But luckily, Utah will be able to retain its own pick this year as long as it conveys the top 10, which, I mean, it's never a guarantee in this current lottery system. Like, what did Atlanta? I think Atlanta had like the 5th or 6th best odds to get the first overall pick, and they got the first overall pick this year. So with this current odds system, you never really know. It's never guaranteed. But the Jazz should be bad enough at the very minimum to have top 5 odds at the first pick, so I'm not really worried about their pick conveying or not. Now let's move on. Let's talk about Portland, another Western Conference team that to me has interesting pieces similar to Utah, where it's like they have guys that they're like they have guys with value, guys that are very good, very serviceable NBA players like Anthony Simons, Jeremy Grant, Shaedon Sharpe, and it's like similarly to Utah, if they don't trade those guys pre-deadline, and if those guys are playing well, and Scoot Henderson can actually be an NBA player and stop having minus 58 plus minuses, because I thought you were going to be one of the best players in your draft class, so please don't make me look like an idiot. If those guys play well and Scoot Henderson can look like a little bit less of a bust, the Trailblazers just might be in that gray area that I was talking about where they miss the play-in but aren't quite bad enough to have like top 5 odds at the first overall pick. Again, kind of like similarly to Utah, the thing that's saving them is just the fact that the West is so doggone good right now that it really doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? Like, if those guys, even if those guys play well, it's like, yeah, the ceiling is like the 12 seed. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's not terrible because the West is just so damn good that it really doesn't make too big of a difference. But you got to keep in mind, the Blazers also added Denny Advia. Advia? I feel like I'm saying that wrong. Advia? I don't know. Denny Advia. And they added rookie Donovan Clingan this offseason. I think both of those guys are very good, can be. You know what I'm saying? Denny Advia has been a guy that's been producing in the NBA, like, solidly. You know what I'm saying? And I think Donovan Clingan has the potential to be a really good NBA player. Those will be guys that will probably make this team better as well. And, I mean, it's kind of like it's really, really similar to Utah, where I think these two teams are in really similar positions because as long as Portland's bad enough to have a lottery pick, which is 1 through 14, which, in my opinion, Portland will be that bad, they will keep their pick and they'll hopefully be able to use it on someone that'll make this team a competitor in the West or at least a damn play-in team in the West. But, like, it's just one of those things where it's like you might be bad in the West, like bottom of your conference, and still not even have a top 3 pick just because the West is so good and the East is so bad. You know what I'm saying? It's like last year, what were the top 2 picks? It was Atlanta, it was Washington. You know what I'm saying? I don't remember who had the 3rd pick now that I'm thinking about it. Because I don't even remember who went. I think Spurs had like the 4th or something, so maybe it was the Trailblazers. I don't know. I genuinely have no idea. It was the Rockets, actually, I think it was the Rockets. Because they had Brooklyn's pick or something like that. So really it was top 3 picks this year. I'm pretty sure were like 3 Eastern Conference teams. That might happen again. So like Portland and Utah, to me, it's like they might be the bottom 2 teams in their conference, but they still might not even be good enough for a top 3, top 4 pick, which just sucks. But we'll see, you know what I'm saying? And in the East, let's just go ahead and move on. The worst team to me, and possibly, very probably though, maybe even the worst team in the whole league next year will be Brooklyn, but this is purposeful, so like good for you if you're a Brooklyn fan. You traded away Mikal Bridges, and I wouldn't be shocked at all to see Cam Johnson or DFS, Dorian Finney-Smith, get traded before the deadline either, especially if they can get at least a pick for each of those guys, because Brooklyn has been hauling up on picks this offseason. So if they can continue that come deadline, if they can get these guys to move for at least like a first-round pick or 2, I think they'll be super, super happy with that. Like the Nets literally have like 5 first-rounders this year, if I'm not mistaken. So they're starting their rebuild off pretty perfectly, if you ask me. This is a rebuild that pretty much started this year, like fully this year. So I think it's been a really, really good start, a really perfect start to a rebuild, if you ask me. And if they can get those guys to have like really good 1 or 2 months to start the season to where they can up their trade value and definitely get picks for those guys so that they can sell them high, that will only improve the rebuild. That will only skyrocket things and make things even better for them. Brooklyn is a team that basically will be trying to lose this year, and all power to you. I expect it to work because the East is pretty bad, so you're gonna be able to lose a lot of games. You know what I'm saying? Like the East got better, which helps because that means, hey, now you have more comp at the top of your conference and everything like that. So it's like, hey, you have more opportunities to lose. But the bad thing is that there are also going to be other teams like Toronto, who I'm going to talk about in a second, who are also going to be really bad in the East, where they might give you competition for that bottom seed in the East, which, you know what I'm saying, competition for a bottom seed sounds so disrespectful, but y'all know what I mean, bro. And since I already said it, the final of the 4 teams I'm going to be talking about that I see really, really, really like being one of the top teams in the Cooper Flagg Sweepstakes is the Toronto Raptors. Now, teams like Washington, Detroit, San Antonio, Charlotte, those teams will all be pretty bad as well. But I think those teams have the potential to be a little better than these 4 do. But I'll talk more about that, like I said, either Monday's video or Tuesday's video. Y'all know you weren't getting a video Sunday. So it'll be in one of those videos really, really soon. Toronto is a team that has kind of opted for more of an interior rebuild. To me, this is like the exact opposite of the rebuild that the Brooklyn Nets are doing, where the Nets are trading their guys and trying to get as many picks as possible. But Toronto is doing the thing where they try to trade for real young NBA players that already have shown that they have potential, and they're trying to develop those guys into very good NBA players, trying to get them to the peak of their potential while also capitalizing on the draft with their 1 or 2 picks that they're going to have each year. And to me, this isn't my favorite approach, but hey, at least they're committed to the rebuild, where it's like you got teams like Chicago who's going to be pretty bad, but then you have untradeable contracts, it seems like, in Zach LaVine and Vucevic, who are going to be producing enough for you to where you might make the play-in again. You know what I'm saying? Where you're still going to be in that gray area. So at least we're committed to the rebuild, I hope. Toronto added Davion Mitchell, but other than that, the offseason was pretty much nothing special. And this is a team that was already pretty bad in the season in a weak Eastern Conference, which isn't great. And the conference is getting better while the Raptors aren't improving at the same rate. So I expect to see Toronto near the bottom of the standings for literally pretty much the entire season next year. And Toronto does have its own first rounder, but that's its only first rounder. So they need it to be a high pick. They need it to convey. They need to use it wisely, or else I'll probably be on here in about a year from now, a little less than a year from now, screaming, crying, making a fool of myself, calling for somebody to be fired, like crashing out. Like I'll be doing all of that if they don't, because I'm already not a huge fan of the approach. But hey, a rebuild is a rebuild, man. Let's just hope they can be successful with it. So yeah, you're going to get a video about teams that got better this offseason, but like what their ceiling is, like where their ceiling is like, hey, you're going to make the playoffs, but like you're not really a contender. And you might get some other videos soon. You're going to start getting football content really soon because NFL season starts in like 2-3 weeks. Really excited for that. So you will be getting football content soon. But yeah, man, I love y'all. I appreciate y'all, bro. Thank y'all for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you liked the video. I don't want none of them pity likes, okay? I want you to like it at the end of it if you actually liked the video. And if you didn't leave a comment, let me know why you didn't like the video. Let me know what I should do differently. Still a mess back there. Still dealing with moving stuff. I was literally helping my aunt and uncle move into their apartment today because they're moving it to an apartment until they move into their house in Florida because they're building it. That was a lot of, that was some slave work right there. But hey, glad I got to get out here and get y'all this video, man. Love y'all, appreciate you, and stay blessed, stay praying. Y'all know what I'm gonna say, man.